Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we are reviewing Darkwing Duck.
Yes, and this comes to us as a Patreon request from our buddy Burn Retinas. So thank you very much. Let's get into it.
Hey, Jim.
Yes?
Let's get dangerous.
I get it!
You just ruined all my fun. You're supposed to be mad.
I get it. Originally released in 1992, this was developed and published by Capcom. It came out on the NES and the Game Boy, though later on it got ported as part of the Disney Afternoon Collection on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. This is based off the popular cartoon at the time. Man, it was a good show. Man, I hope this game's good.
Jim, was that your favorite Disney afternoon show?
Yeah, probably. Gizmo Duck.
Damn it!
Ow! So the graphics. This is a pretty solid package here. So being a later game in the NES's life cycle, they've gotten a good idea about how to use color and sprites, and they look really good in this game. If there are some nitpicks though, unfortunately since it's, Darkwing Duck, the game mostly takes place at night, so the backgrounds definitely get a little bland, they lack a little bit of the color because it keeps a darker tone, and there's not that many levels, so it's not that much variation in the long run. The way the game does shine though are all the little touches, like the animations with the cape, whether you're standing still or running or jumping, or just the general design and animations of the boss fights. They actually all look pretty damn cool. So overall we gave it 7s. And when it comes to beer, you just need one beer for the slightly darker tone of the graphics. Could have been more colorful.
Stop being racist.
What? I just wanted more color. It's like the opposite.
You keep saying it's too dark.
Disavow. So the sound. Again, this is a really solid title. So the standout here is going to be the music for the most part. So the first thing that hits you in the face is the recreation of the original theme from the show, and they do a pretty good job of it. I don't know, maybe it feels like something's a little bit off, even considering it's on the NES, but they still tried.
Jim!
What?
Would you say it's lacking soul?
Who's racist now?
What are you talking about, Jim? I just want some more soul.
Oh, you know. The music in the game is really solid, though. Now, I'm not a big enough Darkwing Duck fan to know whether or not these are all ripped from the show, but what you get here is very good. And the sound effects are fine. They're nothing spectacular. They're NES-era sound effects. What are you gonna do? You get one boss theme, which is fine, but overall, it's good, but being Capcom, and especially in 92, you kind of expect a little more. So Brian gave it a 6, and I gave it a 7. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to add one beer for...
Lack of soul?
No. Just for maybe a little bit of missed potential.
You say potential, I say soul. The control. Like Jim just said, this is a Capcom game, and they have perfected the platformer by 92, and it really shows in this game. The jumping, the shooting, it is all really smooth, and there really is no input lag that I found. Now, Jim kind of touched on it earlier with the animations, but as Darkwing Duck, you have the ability to now crouch and shoot, and hold up your cape to stop projectiles. Those are cool, and it wasn't as common to see those back in the day, so they're nice little touches, and they're executed pretty well. The one area that can get a little fuzzy, and it's a cool mechanic, but the ability to jump and pretty much grab onto anything, be it hooks or the underside of platforms. Most of the time it works, but man oh man are some of these jumps pixel perfect, and they're not always consistent. If that's my only gripe with the control, otherwise we think it's damn near perfect. So, when it comes to scores, we both gave it 8s. There's nothing to nitpick here. If you've played a Mega Man game, then you know exactly how this one's going to control. And when it comes to beer, I'm not going to add any because you're not going to have any real issues with the control here.
I don't know, Bri. Maybe by 92 you could have aimed up in a Capcom game. That'd have been nice.
I mean, you can use your cape and you can duck and shoot. Could Mega Man duck and shoot?
No, but Mega Man also couldn't aim up. Would have been nice.
Well, they're not Konami, Jim.
Yeah, well, you got a point.
The gameplay. Well, you did hear me just say that this game is a lot like Mega Man, and it's apparent from the very beginning at the level select screen because you get to choose where you go first. Now, the basic plot is that you're trying to defeat Steelbeak and his 6 henchmen and save the city. So who you go against is really up to you, but you only have 3 options at the beginning. After you beat those 3 bosses, you move on to the next 3, and then finally you fight Steelbeak. When you get into the game itself, you have a shot, you have jump, and as I already mentioned, you have a few other added mechanics. Unlike Mega Man, you only have 3 additional powers added to your gas gun, and one shoots a bubble to the ground and it kind of splits off in 2 directions. One is the most useless kind of split diagonal shot, and the third, and my favorite, is the arrow, because not only does this thing really just devastate anyone you're going to shoot it at, it can be used as an additional platform throughout the game. So that's a little fun mechanic I like that they thrown in there. But here's where the game differs from Mega Man. Number 1, you need to take your time and go very slow. A lot of the enemies you're going to go against are bullet sponges. I don't know why some of them take so many hits, and some of them just have super specific weak points, which can be almost pixel perfect, so you're going to do a lot of run up to somewhere, wait for him to expose his weak point, jump, shoot, rinse, and repeat. Now, putting that aside, the platforming is perfectly fine, and there are some fun areas, like when you have to jump on this tire and kind of move it over the bed of spikes. And with the ability to jump and grab onto things, you can explore a little bit more of the map and discover a whole bunch of secrets. When it comes to the boss fights, they're kind of anticlimactic. I think the most I ever died at any boss was maybe 3 times, because the patterns are very simple, and if you go in there with the mindset knowing you're only going to get a couple hits at a time, you know they're just going to take a while, but they're not that difficult. Not that I need something to be brain-bashingly difficult, but a little bit more might have been nice, and the variety in the type of boss battles would have been nice too, because just like this level here, it repeats later on when you fight Bushroot, so I would have wished they would have varied it just a little bit more. And outside of that, there's really nothing else to mention with the gameplay. It is your most basic platformer possible, but it is in the world of Darkwing Duck, so it did do the show some justice. When it comes to scores, we both gave it 7s. This feels like an unfinished Mega Man game, and that's not really a bad thing. It's just not the most polished in the world. So when it comes to beer, I want to add 2 just because some of these areas, waiting for enemies or how much damage I have to take, you're going to get thirsty, and you're going to need a drink.
Alright, originality's a little rough, and we both gave it 3s for a few simple reasons. It's a Mega Man game, it's based on a Mega Man engine, but they do add the cape mechanic, they do add the deliberately slower pace, and it's really one of the only Darkwing Duck games that were ever made. We're not going to count the TurboGrafx 16 game. So, when it comes to beers, man, I'm going to add 2 beers. Not that you really need them, but it would be nice to see something a little bit more different than the norm from Capcom.
The replayability I can keep short because there really isn't any. I know that sounds a little rough, but hear us out. Number 1, it's not even hard enough to get the obligatory 3 from us, but the other issue is there's only one ending. Now, the only reason we gave it some points is because you can choose the order in which you go against the bosses. I really wish they did implement some kind of Mega Man power system, so that way it would make it a little more unique, but you don't even have that going for it. So really, going in a different order of bosses makes 0 difference to the actual game or gameplay at all. So, when it comes to scores, we both gave it 2s. I don't want to knock it too much because we obviously keep comparing it to Mega Man, but what can we say? You could have added just a little bit more in 92. So when it comes to beer, I'm going to add 1 just for potentially lazy development. So overall, we did enjoy this game, and the control and gameplay are fun. The problem is the expectations were set a little bit high because it was so late in the NES, and this is a Capcom game. While it shines in some areas, it just falls short of being truly great.
Yeah, and like you said, it does seem almost a little bit of a lazy cash grab. And in this day and age, like, the cartridge itself goes for over $100 now. So I would definitely say, unless you're a huge Darkwing Duck fan, not worth the price. But if you don't want to just straight up emulate it, definitely check out the Disney Afternoon Collection, because for all the games on there, they give you cool artwork, they give you promotional material. And for Darkwing Duck, you get a boss rush time attack mode with online leaderboards, you get a straight time attack mode for all the levels with online leaderboards, And if you just want to learn the game itself, you have built-in rewind features and all kinds of different little goodies to make the experience all that much better and fulfilling. So if you want to really try it this day and age, I would definitely suggest that. Plus you get 5 other games with it.
Yeah, and as far as this being in with the Disney Afternoon Collection, it's definitely not the best game, but it's also not the worst there. So you have that, like Jim said, avoid the cart because the prices are just ridiculous. But when it comes to scores, we both gave it 7s. It's definitely above average, but as I already mentioned, it's not perfect. When we put all of our scores together, it comes out to a 6.8. The presentation, control, and gameplay shine, but really, it just falls off with the replayability, the originality, and yeah, why did they have to make it such a slow-paced game? I don't think people were ready for it back then, and it doesn't age quite as well today.
True, but one more time, we want to give a big shout out and thank you to Burn Retinas for the support and for making this his Patreon request game. And if you would like a game request, check out the links below to our Patreon.
So with that, we want to say have a good night, everyone, and cheers.
Cheers, guys.
When it comes to beer pairing, I'm going to go with Drake's Brewing Company's The Purple Dank Darkwing Limited IPA. Although this beer is retired, there's still enough in circulation that you may be able to grab a bottle. And after all, who's to say this is not directly inspired by Darkwing Duck? Between the coloring, the name, I think it's a dead giveaway. So grab a bottle or 6 if you're lucky, and be sure to enjoy yourself. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly.